If you're determined to use the semicolon to show off your college education, here are 2 common mistakes to avoid. Remember this example we saw in the last lecture. I like Italy, semicolon, the people are friendly and the food is delicious. This example demonstrates the number 1 rule for using semicolons correctly when joining closely related sentences. And that is that you must use a full sentence both before and after a semicolon. In other words, the option to replace the semicolon with a full stop should always be available. So here, the phrase I like Italy could stand alone. Likewise, the people are friendly and the food is delicious. But what if we said, I like Italy, semicolon, because of the food and friendly people? This would be incorrect because it doesn't meet the rule that you must use a full sentence both before and after a semicolon. I like Italy is a full sentence. But because of the food and friendly people doesn't make sense on its own as an independent sentence. Strictly, you couldn't replace the semicolon with a full stop here. Likewise with Italy, semicolon, I go there for the food and friendly people. Here we have the reverse problem. The phrase, I go there for the food and friendly people is a full sentence, but Italy on its own is not. Again, strictly speaking, you couldn't replace the semicolon with a full stop. Of course, you may choose to use a full stop if you are playing with the conservative rules of grammar. But if you're committed to the semicolon, you're committed to somewhat conservative rules of grammar, so you probably won't want to annoy your fellow semicolonists. Another mistake I often see is people confusing the semicolon with the colon, specifically using a semicolon to introduce a list. As in, the dish has 3 main ingredients, semicolon, potatoes, onions and cream, where the semicolon should be a colon. In some situations, you may have a choice between a colon and a semicolon, depending on what you're trying to say. Now, the differences can be quite subtle, so it's really important to understand them. Let's take a look at an example. Here we have 2 statements separated by a full stop. Jackie was disappointed, full stop, Pat was bored. Now, in all likelihood, Jackie's and Pat's moods are related. After all, why has the writer told us about them? However, if we wanted to be more forceful in implying a relationship between Jackie's disappointment and Pat's boredom, we could replace the full stop with either a semicolon or a colon. But here's the key. It depends on exactly how those 2 statements are related. What if we say, Jackie was disappointed, semicolon, Pat was bored? Well, this punctuation definitely suggests a link between Jackie's disappointment and Pat's boredom. Perhaps, for example, Jackie is disappointed by the same thing that made Pat bored. So, for example, maybe they'd been to see a film together and the film disappointed Jackie and at the same time bored Pat. But if we say Jackie was disappointed, colon, Pat was bored, then the nuance of the sentence is slightly different. Remember how we learned that the primary use of the colon was to introduce an explanation or elaboration of what has come before? Well, here, the use of the colon suggests that Pat's boredom explains Jackie's disappointment. In other words, Jackie was disappointed because Pat was bored. Maybe then in this case, Jackie had excitedly recommended the film to Pat and was disappointed because it bored them. So as that last example shows, whether you use a colon or a semicolon can very subtly change the meaning of your sentence. Although, of course, your choice depends on whether your reader is going to get the subtle nuances of your punctuation use, which is far from guaranteed. One option you do have is to fudge the distinction by using the dash. Coming up next.